The studio lights were blinding, but it wasn't the brightness that froze the crowd, it was the silence. Tim Walz sat across from Tyrus, his face half in shadow, eyes flickering with a nervous kind of defiance. Just seconds ago, Tyrus had said the words no one expected to hear on live television, words that felt like a door slamming shut in the middle of a hurricane. The air in the studio was electric, the cameras rolling, the audience holding its breath as the weight of what had just been revealed settled over everyone like a thundercloud. Viewers at home leaned closer to their screens, unsure if they were about to watch a scandal unravel or history being made. Only moments earlier, the show had seemed routine, a typical high-stakes political debate between a veteran media figure and a seasoned public servant. Tyrus, with his towering presence and a calm but piercing demeanor, had asked sharp questions but nothing out of the ordinary. Tim Walz, confident and collected, had been answering with his usual polished charm. But then Tyrus' tone shifted, soft at first like a blade sliding out of a sheath. He spoke of dirty secrets, of a hidden deal no one was supposed to know about, and he dropped a name that made Tim's face twitch in real time. The studio audience gasped, a collective intake of breath that even the sound engineers couldn't mute. Tim felt a wave of heat rise from his collar. Inside, memories of late-night phone calls, sealed envelopes, and whispered conversations surged back like a nightmare he'd tried to forget. He knew this moment might come, but not here, not now, not under these lights with millions watching. His staff, standing off stage, exchanged panicked looks, their plans unraveling before their eyes. The camera zoomed in on Tim's trembling hand gripping the edge of the table as Tyrus pressed on, his voice low and deliberate, like a prosecutor cornering his witness. What unfolded next was more than a confrontation, it was a human unraveling. Tyrus didn't shout or rage, he simply laid out the facts, piece by piece, letting the silence between each revelation do the damage. The audience watched a man who had built his public image on strength and transparency begin to crack. Tim's words came out halting at first, then faster, louder, until he finally erupted, his voice breaking, fist slamming the table, the microphone picking up every syllable of his frustration. It wasn't just anger. It was the sound of a man watching years of carefully constructed reputation crumble in real time. The tension peaked when Tim stood up, his chair screeching against the studio floor, eyes blazing. He lashed out at Tyrus, accusing him of lies, of political assassination, of turning a serious issue into spectacle. But Tyrus stood firm, unflinching, his calmness almost unsettling. Viewers watching at home could feel the heat, the stakes, the sense that something irreversible was happening. It wasn't just about secrets anymore, it was about truth, accountability, and the collision between power and exposure. Then came the shift no one expected. As Tim's outburst settled into ragged breathing, the cameras caught a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes, a man caught between shame and liberation. For the first time in years, he wasn't performing. He confessed to mistakes, to the compromises he thought were necessary, to the pressures that had bent him into someone he no longer recognized. His words came slowly, cracking under the weight of years of silence. The studio went from tense to silent, then to something softer, as people sensed they were witnessing not just a scandal but a reckoning. Tyrus, sensing the shift, didn't gloat or push. He simply leaned forward and asked the question that became the turning point: what do you want people to remember about you after tonight? It was no longer about winning the moment, it was about salvaging something human from the wreckage. Tim hesitated, eyes glistening under the harsh lights. In that pause, the noise of politics faded, replaced by the raw, unmistakable pulse of truth. He spoke of redemption, of wanting to repair the damage, of facing what he'd run from for so long. It wasn't an easy answer, but it was real, and for a flicker of a moment, that honesty changed the energy in the room. The show ended not with applause but with a strange, heavy quiet, like after a storm when the air feels scrubbed clean. As Tim walked off stage, shoulders slumped but eyes steadier, there was a sense of a man stripped down to his core, no longer hiding behind power. The audience, though shocked, sensed something powerful had just happened, a live television moment that wasn't just about politics but about accountability, truth, and the possibility of change. In the days that followed, the clip went viral, not just because of the drama but because of what it revealed about the human condition. People saw in Tim's collapse their own fears of exposure, their own longing for forgiveness. They saw in Tyrus' composure a model of courage, Someone willing to stand firm in the face of pressure, not to destroy but to reveal. The incident sparked conversations across the country about leadership, transparency, and the price of hiding the truth. And as the dust settled, an unlikely lesson emerged from the wreckage, that the power to redeem oneself doesn't come from denying the past but from owning it, publicly and painfully if necessary. Viewers who had tuned in for Scandal found themselves grappling with something far deeper, the quiet realization that even in our darkest unravelings, we can choose to face the truth and rebuild. In the end, it wasn't the exposure that defined Tim Walz's legacy but the courage he showed in the moment after, the courage to finally stop pretending and start becoming someone real.